For more than a century, two fizzy legends have been locked in one of the greatest rivalries of all time. I'm not talking about Batman versus Joker. I'm talking about Coke versus Pepsi. These two sodas have been battling it out for your taste buds, your fridge space, and your loyalty. But here's the real question. Which one actually tastes better? Now, you may already think you know the answer. Maybe you swear you can tell the difference instantly, or maybe you're convinced they taste exactly the same. But today, we're putting both to the test in ways you've probably never seen before. We're talking blind taste challenges, fizz tests, sweetness battles, even how each one holds up when the ice starts to melt. By the end of this video, you'll not only know which cola takes the crown, you might even be questioning everything you thought you knew about your favorite drink. Because trust me, the results are not what you expect. So grab a glass, hit that subscribe button if you love showdown-style videos, and let's finally settle this century-long debate. Coke versus Pepsi, which is better? Alright, before we dive into the taste showdown, let's set the stage. This isn't going to be a casual sip and shrug. Nope, if we're going to crown a winner between Coke and Pepsi, it has to be fair, transparent, and maybe just a little dramatic. Here's how we're doing it. First, I'll run a blind taste test, so there's no label bias, no sneaky brand loyalty creeping in, just pure flavor. Next, we'll put these two through a fizz test to see which one keeps its sparkle longer. Because let's be real, nobody likes a flat soda. After that, it's time for the sweetness showdown. Pepsi has the reputation of being sweeter, while Coke is known for a smoother, more balanced flavor. But reputations don't always match reality, so we'll see which one actually delivers. Then, to really push things, we're throwing in the ice test, because how a drink holds up when the ice melts can make or break your experience. And to make it even more fun, we'll sprinkle in some cola history and a few shocking facts about their billion-dollar rivalry. By the end, you'll have all the proof you need to decide once and for all which soda deserves the crown. Time for the moment of truth, the blind taste test. This is where things get interesting, because most people think they can tell Coke and Pepsi apart instantly. But when the labels are gone and the drinks are side by side, the confidence usually disappears faster than the fizz. I've got two identical cups poured, no markings, no tricks. On the left, one cola. On the right, the other. No way to tell which is which. And if you're watching at home, here's the fun part. Play along. Imagine you're taking this test with me, and guess which one you'd pick as your favorite. First sip. Pause for suspense. Okay, smooth, crisp, a little less sweet than I expected. It kind of lingers in a familiar way. Now the second sip. Pause again. Wow, that one hits with more sweetness right up front, but it doesn't last as long. The flavor sort of punches you, then fades quicker. Here's the twist. Without the labels, I'll be honest, it's not as easy as people claim. The differences are there, but they're subtle. Coke tends to have that caramel-like aftertaste, while Pepsi usually feels a little brighter and sweeter. But when you're just sipping, the gap isn't a canyon. It's a crack in the sidewalk. And the result of round one? If we're going purely on taste in this blind setup, I'd say the first cup edges out. It's smoother, feels more balanced, and doesn't vanish right away. Which one was that? Well, stick around, because I'll reveal it after we finish all the rounds. Alright, taste is one thing, but what about fizz? Because let's be honest, a soda without bubbles is just sad sugar water. So in round two, we're testing Coke and Pepsi for fizz and freshness. I've got both bottles freshly opened, and here's the test. Pour them side by side and listen. Pause for effect. Right away, you can hear it. Coke tends to pop with that sharp hiss, like it's shouting, "Wake up." Pepsi's fizz is a little softer, but it foams faster as it hits the glass. Now here's where it gets fun. We let them sit for a few minutes. No ice, no stirring, just time doing its thing. Watch the bubbles. Coke's carbonation usually hangs on longer, giving you that steady stream of tiny bubbles. Pepsi? It starts strong, but those bubbles fade quicker, almost like it sprints out of the gate and then loses steam. And when you take a sip after a few minutes, the difference is clear. Coke still bites. That fizzy tickle on your tongue is alive and kicking. Pepsi, on the other hand, feels flatter, smoother, and less energetic. So, in the fizz department, round two goes to the one that keeps the party going the longest. Spoiler, it's not even close. If you've ever heard the classic debate, you know the stereotype. Coke is smooth and balanced. Pepsi is sweeter and bolder. But does that really hold up when we break it down? Let's find out. First sip of Coke. It starts off crisp, almost refreshing, then leaves this gentle caramel-like aftertaste. It's not trying too hard. It's like the friend who just chills in the corner, but always leaves a good impression. Now Pepsi. Whoa, that's a sugar rush right up front. It's brighter, almost citrusy, with a sweetness that jumps out immediately. But here's the kicker. It fades faster. It's like a fireworks show that starts with a bang, but disappears before you can grab your phone to record it. On paper, Pepsi actually packs a touch more sugar than Coke, and you can feel it. That quick punch makes Pepsi feel livelier in the moment. But it can also be a bit overwhelming if you're not in the mood for it. Coke, meanwhile, plays the long game. It's smoother, less in your face, but it sticks around. So, which one wins the sweetness showdown? Honestly, it depends on your vibe. If you're chasing bold and sugary, Pepsi takes it. If you like balance and a flavor that lingers, Coke slides into the winner's circle. Either way, your dentist isn't going to be happy. Alright, time to hit these colas with their biggest real-world enemy, ice. Because let's face it, most of us don't drink straight from the can. We pour it over ice, kick back, and expect it to stay tasty until we finish the glass. But which one actually holds up when the cubes start melting? Coke first. You drop in the ice, give it a few minutes, and the flavor is still there. It waters down a little, sure, but the caramel backbone hangs on. You still get that signature Coke bite, even when it's colder and thinner. Now Pepsi, oh boy. The second that ice melts, the sweetness that made Pepsi stand out earlier suddenly becomes its downfall. The sugar gets diluted, and what's left feels flatter. It's like all the personality rushed out the door the second water showed up to the party. And here's the kicker. When you take a sip of each after about 10 minutes, Coke still feels like a soda. Pepsi? More like a memory of soda. So in the ice test, Coke keeps its crown. It's the marathon runner, pacing itself and staying strong even when the environment changes. Pepsi? Well, Pepsi is more of a sprinter. Fun at first, but it burns out quick. Before we crown a winner, let's step back and talk about how this rivalry even started. Coke hit the scene first in 1886, invented by a pharmacist in Atlanta. It was sold at soda fountains for just 5 cents a glass, and before long, Coke was everywhere. Pepsi showed up a few years later, in 1893, with its own formula and a big dream: take down the king. The rivalry exploded in the 1970s and 80s. Coke was the classic, the safe choice, the one that sold itself as the real thing. Pepsi decided to play the rebel. They launched the famous Pepsi Challenge, where blind taste tests across malls and parks claimed Pepsi was sweeter and people preferred it. Add in Michael Jackson dancing with a Pepsi can, and suddenly Coke had a real fight on its hands. Coke struck back with iconic ads of Santa Claus drinking their soda and polar bears sliding on ice. Both companies poured billions into marketing, all to convince you their cola was the one. So, when you sip Coke or Pepsi today, you're not just tasting soda. You're tasting over a century of brand wars, commercials, and cultural moments. This isn't just a drink battle. It's history in a glass. Alright, quick pause before the big finale. Let's be real for a second. This battle is basically the soda version of a family feud. You're either Team Coke, Team Pepsi, or that one person in the corner saying, I actually prefer Dr. Pepper. But here's the fun part. I want you to lock in your answer right now. Drop a comment. Are you Coke all the way, Pepsi ride or die, or do you just drink whatever's on sale at the gas station? No cheating, no waiting for the verdict. I want your honest pick. And can we just laugh at the fact that people get way too passionate about this? Like, friendships have ended over less. Imagine walking into a party with a case of Pepsi and the Coke crowd just staring you down like you brought a skunk. On the flip side, show up with Coke to a Pepsi household, and suddenly you're that guy. So yeah, the stakes here are higher than we admit, which makes the final verdict even juicier. Ready? Let's crown a winner. Alright, we've gone through every test: blind tasting, fizz, sweetness, ice, even the history. And now it's time to put all of that together and finally crown a winner. In the blind taste test, Coke edged out for being smoother and more balanced, while Pepsi came out swinging with sweetness but didn't stick around as long. In the fizz showdown, Coke held on to its bubbles like a champ, while Pepsi fizzled out quicker. In the sweetness test, Pepsi delivered a bold sugar punch that some people love, but Coke stayed steady with a flavor you can sip longer without feeling overloaded. In the ice test, Coke kept its identity even after dilution, while Pepsi kind of vanished into watered-down sweetness. So when you stack it all up, the winner for me is Coca-Cola. It's not about brand loyalty. It's just the soda that held strong across every round. But here's the catch. If you love that instant sugary rush, Pepsi might still be your jam. At the end of the day, it's less about better and more about what fits your taste. Still, if I had to stock my fridge with one, Coke gets the crown. And there you have it. After Fizz battles, sugar rushes, and even a history lesson, Coke takes the crown in this showdown. But remember, this is just one test, and taste is personal. Some of you are screaming at your screen right now saying, "No way, Pepsi all day." And that's exactly why this debate has lasted over a century. So here's what I want you to do. Hit the comments and let me know which side you're on. Are you Team Coke, Team Pepsi, or do you secretly think both are overrated? I'll be reading through, and I'm sure the comments are going to turn into a mini soda war of their own. If you had fun watching this battle, don't stop here. Because next up, we're putting McDonald's fries versus Burger King fries to the test. And trust me, you do not want to miss that one. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next showdown. Until then, keep sipping, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.